Welcome to another episode of Speak Your Own Business. I'm Kiana, director here at Plenty of Stuff Studio, and today we're diving into something that every business talks about, but not everyone really understands, and that's branding. So I'm joined by Rob Fryer, owner of Brandstorm in Bordon. And in this episode, we're going to talk about what branding actually means beyond logos, where businesses go wrong, how branding can impact the growth, and how to build something that lasts, not just something that looks good. So, Rob, let's start right at the beginning.
Yeah.
How did Brandstorm come about?
I think it's sort of the typical sort of journey, I guess, for a creative. And I spent my career as a graphic designer and working my way through the agency routes and that kind of stuff. And then as my career progressed, I got more and more involved with the brand strategy part of what we did. I wasn't a brand strategist at the time, but I sat in the rooms and I sat in a lot of those conversations, and I became just fascinated with that world basically, and what branding. It made me realise what branding really was. It wasn't about the logos and the fancy colours. It was more about the meaning behind it and that kind of stuff. And that's what really sort of drove me forward a little bit. I was always graphic design and that kind of stuff, and then in 2009, way back when we had the big recession at the time, and I got made redundant and struggled to find another job that I really wanted or fitted in with. And that was kind of my time to say, you know what, if I'm going to go do my own thing, which I had thought about but never had the balls to do it, it was now or never kind of thing. So I just sort of leapt into it and see how it went. I started freelancing for a long time, and just slowly but surely built up my client base and that kind of stuff. And I still banging the graphic designer drum. I was still basically a graphic designer for hire. And as things went on, I realised that actually the branding piece was the piece that I really cared about mostly. That's what my clients were buying from me. Yes, they were buying the fact that I was a good graphic designer, but actually the thing that I really drove home with all of the clients I work with is that we're not just creating a one-off piece for you. We're not creating a leaflet. I need to know how this leaflet or this flyer or this brochure is fitting into your brand ecosystem. Yeah, how does it need to look? How does it need to feel? What message does it need to portray? To make sure the brand is on message and on point each time. And
Yeah.
so that's kind of how it kind of grew really. And then so Branson's been running it as it is now for about 5 years. It was a turning point to rename the company Brandstorm, just to give that sort of focus on branding rather than design.
Yeah. Oh, thank you so much for that insight into Brandstorm and how it all started. That's really interesting and impressive, actually. I really have a lot of respect for people who kind of they start their journey, they're employed, and then they go freelance, and then they decide to take that step and start their own business,
It's a
because it
scary
can be
time, and it's just
something,
yeah,
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 very scary. But you did that, and you're proof that it can work. It pays off, all that hard
yeah. It can,
work.
can, can, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So, okay then, what has been one of your biggest learning moments as a business owner then?
I think the thing for me is about not trying to do everything yourself and
Yeah.
trying to do it alone kind of thing. I think that's the big thing. I spent a lot of time as a graphic designer, freelancer. And I was just banging on doors, and it just felt like relentless. Or it was just
Yes.
it could be a better way kind of thing. And then I realised that actually it was about bringing people along for the ride with you kind of thing, and that kind of stuff. So it's about partnerships, it's about community around you. When I started Brandstorm, I sort of I had this sort of crossroads. Do I employ people and create an agency and people around me, or do I become known for what I want to do and just do what I want to do, and just
Yeah.
bring in the right people that can help me do that, and assist my clients in the right ways. So that's the route, that's the route I took with it. And since then, it's always been about who can I bring in to help me do what I do.
Yes. Yeah. Delegation, I think, is key, and having the awareness to know that no one actually makes it on their own, that everybody's got help. You could be a
Yeah,
solo founder,
yeah.
but then there's people around you, your community, your network of people you can bring in to help you. So
Absolutely, yeah.
that's brilliant.
I know what I'm good at, and I know what other people are good at. So yeah, just
Yeah.
leave it to the experts, I'd say.
Yeah, no, exactly. Um, so you touched on it just a minute ago about how, branding, it's not just a logo, right? There's a lot more to it. How would you explain that to a client who came to you and said, I can you help me with my branding? What would you
Yeah, yeah.
say?
Sure. Everyone treats it as a tick box exercise, especially when you're sort of a startup business. You need a website, you need a logo, you need some business cards and that kind of stuff, and we need some social media presence, that kind of stuff. And it's just a tick box exercise. And when nobody tell you, there's things people tell you need, but they don't really tell you why you need them. That kind of stuff. And yes, a logo is important. It is the calling card of your business kind of thing. But the way I sort of see it and describe it is that no one buys from a logo. We don't buy anything just because the logo is pretty or nice. That's not why we buy things. What we buy from is the associations that we have to that logo and that brand. So I say the logo always acts as a memory trigger to your past experiences and your feelings towards a particular brand. Yeah. Like, for example, if we see the Nike, every time you see the Nike tick sort of thing, it's not the logo you recall in your brain. It's the fact that they're about running, they're about athletes trying to do better, that kind of stuff. That's the feeling you get when you see the Nike logo. That's what branding is. Yes, the logo is important, but it's what sits behind the logo is the most important part.
Yeah, I think a lot of business owners miss the fact that it is this ongoing strategic decision, right? It's about how you want to be perceived in the market and not just that tick box exercise. Got my logo, done.
You just hit the nail on the head there, because the way I sort of describe brand and branding is that your brand, if you think about your brand, that's your customer's overall perception of your business, and how you're perceived in the marketplace. And that's quite a scary prospect, because it means you don't have any control of that. It lives in the hearts and minds of your audiences. But that's why we have branding, because that's the process of how we help shape that perception. Yeah. So if brand is your customer's own perception, you need branding to help shape that perception for yourself, rather than make people come up with their own ideas, kind of thing.
And I don't know about you, but over the years I've seen in my professional career, I've always worked in marketing. Not specifically branding, but I've dealt with clients who they want to refresh their brand, or they want a new logo, and it's like you need to they invest in the visuals before they've actually clarified their positioning.
That's exactly it. Yeah.
It's a huge problem, because they won't see that as a problem, because they don't understand what goes into it. But then they'll come in and say, oh, why isn't my marketing converting? Can you help? It's because the branding, it's not decoration, it is a direction.
No, definitely that. Yeah. We're going to that a bit later on this marketing and branding stuff. But it's common. There's lots of misconceptions out there around it, and the logo is just a small piece of a much larger puzzle, basically.
Yeah. And okay, so that's kind of the business branding side of things, but then there's personal branding, isn't there?
Yeah.
What would you say is the difference between business branding and personal branding?
I think in a short, I'm not a personal branding expert or anything like that, but what I will say is that the personal brand is kind of the humanized part of the brand. It's this human part, baby, because at the end of the day, we all buy from people. We don't buy from products or services. People buy from people. So it's about humanizing your brand so that people can understand what you're about, kind of thing. So that's what I describe as personal branding being. And what a lot of people say, I think one of the biggest mistakes I see with branding and personal branding is they're treating it to two separate elements, to two separate things, when actually they kind of sit almost together. Almost, if you think of like a Venn diagram with two circles, and with the two circles interlocking, you've got the personal branding, you've got the branding, and the piece where they interlock, the section where they interlock, is your things like your values, your purpose, your target audience, that kind of stuff, the meaning behind what you do. That's the piece that binds the two things together. So it's about understanding your values, understanding your purpose and your why, kind of thing, and that translates from your personal brand into your main brand, and vice versa. So you use that as a glue between the two, basically.
Yes, I think some of the strongest brands that I've seen, or you scroll through LinkedIn, and I'm seeing a rise of people really building up their personal brands, and then they kind of attract attention back to their business brand, and they go hand in hand. And that's brilliant. I'm seeing that a lot more now, because people are realizing that both of them work better, they're stronger together.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and you communicate with people first. You know,
Yeah.
you're going to interact in a brand with a logo the same way as you are with a person with a smiley face. You know, that kind of stuff. So you just need to um, be aware of that and say if I'm the brand, what do I look like? You know, how do
Yeah.
I behave? How do I act? That kind of stuff. You know, and using your human personality as a basis of that is a core thing.
Yeah, yeah. Some businesses I've seen as well, they're afraid to put personality into, their brand. But you need to show personality. That's how
Absolutely,
you
absolutely. Yeah,
differentiate
yeah.
yourself.
So I
Um,
think that's where personal branding comes in. It's about bringing
yeah,
that personality into the brand and actually having a strategic way of analysing that. You know.
yeah. And then touching on the importance of branding then a little bit more,
Mhm.
why is branding critical for businesses in competitive markets?
It's your key differentiator, basically. You know, it's how you stand out in a very crowded market. I think the markets are getting very crowded at the moment. You know, there's a lot of
Mm,
noise out there. Branding is becoming more and more critical, I think, for small and large businesses to exist and be seen and that kind of stuff. So you
mhm.
need to find out why you're different, how you're going to be different from the other people. Don't just focus on what you do, focus on why you do it, that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
And really try and own your space, your own little space in the marketplace. If you can, craft a new market, you know, in your own right, from your own business. You know,
mhm.
that's what yes, that's the sort of real goal is. Hard to do, obviously, but we can get you somewhere close. You know, to say that you become the only choice for specific type of people. You know.
Yeah, I think as well in competitive markets, especially locally, businesses don't always lose because they're worse. They lose because they're forgettable, right? They
Absolutely,
they they
absolutely, yeah,
blend in. There's
yeah,
no differentiator, like you said,
yeah,
because a strong brand, it will obviously reduce the friction and it will build that trust before the sales conversation even starts.
yeah, 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 yeah.
And that's the thing.
Yeah, so back being clear and being memorable. That's the, but
Yeah.
if you're too confusing and you're putting different messages and you're constantly changing your branding every 5 minutes, you're not going to be remembered. You know, it's just about doing the basics well and that's how all big brands grow. All big brands that start from small, you know, but they
Yeah.
get the basics in place first and they just relentlessly push it out, push it out, push it out, and then it sticks in our brains and then we know and like and trust them, and we start buying from them, and that's how it sort of snowballs. You know.
Yeah. And you mentioned the small brands, the smaller businesses there. So how can they start building a strong brand without a massive budget? That's a conversation I have with a lot of people. How would you say, as the expert in branding, they can do that?
Yeah, it's interesting. It's all about understanding your why and that kind of stuff. First of all, you know, before you delve into logos and colours and stuff like that, you don't have to spend weeks and weeks and you don't need a long strategy deck and that kind of stuff. You don't have to spend tens of thousands of pounds on a brand strategy, that kind of stuff. But you do need to know who you are, who you're for, why you do what you do,
Mm,
and the two questions I say to any client that I'm start working with is that at the end of this process, we're going to help you answer clearly, articulate two questions. And those two questions are, why do you do what you do, and why should anybody care? You know,
yeah.
and if you can, they sound quite simple questions, but actually when you delve into it and answer them in a way that nobody else can, that's the tricky
Yes.
piece. You know, because so many people just surface level with it, and they some of the dogs barking at the moment.
Oh, I can't hear.
Um,
It's fine.
and so it's just a surface level piece, and you dig down a few of the layers. You know, basically, if you think about it, it's like a always imagine it like a child in the back seat of a car. You know, if they ask a question and you give them a sort of a surface level answer, they always go, yeah, but why? That kind of stuff. You know. And you go, yeah, but
Yes.
why? And then the layers go down. And then by the time you got the fifth why, you kind of got to the really heart, the meaty heart of what they're trying to get at. You know. Um,
Yeah. Yeah. It always comes down to the why.
Absolutely, absolutely, yeah.
Oh,
So
for
you
sure.
get clear on that first, and then everything else just builds from it.
Yeah. And so, in terms of modern branding now, what would you say brands, businesses need to focus on? Or what has changed? Is there anything that's changed? Outdated branding models that you've seen over the years?
Yeah, I think there's I think particularly now there's this obsession with visibility over clarity. I think that there's this
Yes.
obsession with like clinging to the idea that you just put more posts out, more ads out, more funnels, more automation will suddenly fix the growth of your business, kind of thing. If you say more stuff at the wall, something will stick, kind of thing. I think that's one thing that I think a lot of businesses focus on early, and the mistakes they make on early. But we all know that if your positioning is vague, and your value proposition is a bit fluffy, and your brand just feels like everyone else in the sector, all you're doing, if you're doing that, you're just scaling confusion and amplifying confusion, because the more stuff you put out without being clear, you're just putting stuff out that nobody really cares about. And so that's the first thing.
Yeah.
The other thing is about chasing these sort of like trends and hacks, over the clear foundations.
Yeah.
Chasing algorithms isn't a strategy, AI tools and fancy marketing automations means you can do a lot more with a lot less, kind of thing. But all you're really doing is creating more noise without those foundations, So I think that's the key thing for me. People are jumping on these bandwagons, but actually it all comes down. We've mentioned it once before. I'm sure we'll mention it again. This it's all about those foundations. All about getting clear on those particular things from the start.
And if everyone's jumping on the same bandwagon, there's no one standing out as different. You're all doing the same thing, trying to. There's too much noise. There is too much noise. No clarity.
Yeah.
And people's attention spans have changed now. It's reduced so much. Businesses, they're not just competing with their competitors anymore. They're competing with everyone because everyone's putting out content. And with AI and all the automations, a lot of what I see, the content's the same, and there is nothing that will help businesses stand out unless you know exactly what you're doing and you can answer that why.
Yeah, that's great, but AI can only draw on from what it's given, kind of thing. It can't come up with many things new at the moment,
Yes.
And so the creative part of the brain is actually the reason why humans still exist now, and AI hasn't taken over the world, is that we still need that creativity to come up with new ideas and feed those new ideas into the AI tools that say, now create something great for me,
Yeah. And sorry, I am jumping around a bit with these questions, but what would you say? I'm just really interested in the conversation. What would you say the cost of not having a clear brand or a confusing brand would be?
Well, okay, yeah, it's a funny one. That always think of a quote from Seth Godin, who's the guy from the CEO from Jaguar and Land Rover. The quote he says is, trying to think of it now. If you think good branding is expensive, you see the cost of bad branding. And it's so true. Because I think you can just put a lot of stuff out there without thinking about it, and that costs you money. When you're just marketing that confusion, all you're doing is wasting your budget, wasting your marketing spend, that kind of stuff. You need to pump more into paid ads, that kind of stuff, to get any kind of traction. Whereas if you actually got your branding sorted first of all, and you got it clear about who you are and the positioning you're in and who you're going after, once you start amplifying that, your ads land much quicker. Your sales conversations are much shorter, that kind of stuff. People already know who you are. So over the long term, not having branding is a really expensive maneuver, because you're just amplifying confusion all the time. You're just having this stuff, you're pushing stuff out without thinking about it, and you're just wasting massive marketing spend.
Yeah, no, I would definitely agree with that. That's a very costly mistake to make, isn't it?
And what you don't need, you need a £20,000 budget for a week's worth of strategy and a logo design brief that lasts months and that kind of stuff, or a 50-page guideline deck and no one's ever going to read. But you do need something. You need some basic foundations,
Yes.
And so I think people get scared by branding because they think it's going to cost them thousands and thousands of pounds. But actually, it's just about sitting down with somebody, getting clear on the basics, getting a very concise brand identity that means something to somebody. Then you're kind of on the way to success, basically.
Yeah, no, complete 100% agree with that. And yeah, so we love to get down into the nitty gritty and ask business owners and people who come onto our podcast the lessons, the ups and the downs, and the challenges, the mistakes, and the successes that you've had over the years. So I mean, are you happy to share a tough moment in
Yeah, I
Brandstorm
think
and
so.
what you've learned?
I think there was I think we touched on it earlier about thinking about what do you want to be known for. You know, I think that we don't spend enough time thinking about that. I think, and I certainly didn't in the early days. Because when you're a startup, you tend to cast a wide net. You tend to cast this massive big fishing net, and you
Yeah.
trawl whatever you can get basically, and you don't really care what's in there. You can service those clients, and then you can make a bit of money, that kind of stuff, and that's all fine for a little while. Then you start realizing actually there's some good clients and there's some bad clients, and you really want to work with the good clients more, you know. But you don't know how to sort of attract those better clients and that kind of stuff. And that's where your sort of positioning comes in a little bit more.
Mm.
And for me, when I was starting out, I was very much doing exactly that. I was casting this wide net, and I was just trying to get what I could. So I was going networking every week, that kind of stuff. And I was going to these events, and I was just grasping to what I could get, you know. And the easy win for me was business cards. I started designing a lot of business cards for people.
Okay.
Because at networking events at the time, people wanted business cards, you know,
Yeah.
not so much now, but back in the day, everyone had a business card, and they go, "Well, can you design my business cards?" You know, mine are looking a bit crap and a bit naff. You know, I could do with them being zhuzhed up a bit. I said, yeah, okay, great. So that was kind of my tactic a little bit. Then what I realised is that I was becoming known as the business card guy. You know,
Yes.
people coming to me and say, "Oh, you're the business card guy. Can you design my business cards?" And, oh shit, no, I don't want to
No.
keep. I don't want to design business cards in my life. You know,
Yeah.
I want to do the bigger, meatier stuff. You know, I don't be.
Yeah.
And that was kind of a wake up call for me when people started referring me as the business card guy. You know, I was like, I've got to change this. You know, what do I want to be known for? You know, and it definitely wasn't the business card guy. So I had to do a lot of soul searching around that, and so I think that's the thing. So that's what I come back to. What I started to say at the beginning, you know, about the perception that people have of you. You may think you're a great graphic designer and that kind of stuff, and you can help businesses with a lot of solve a lot of problems. But if all you're known for is the business card guy, you're not going to get there. You know. And so I had to sort of reposition myself and think about how I was communicating what I did in the right way to the right people, you know, and then I started attracting the bigger projects and that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Wow. And that's the thing. If trying to speak to everyone is usually the fastest way to connect with no one.
Absolutely, yeah. No,
No, it's
definitely,
so true.
definitely.
Okay, so if somebody wanted to level up their brand today, what is the first step they should take?
Um, it's just getting to keep repeating myself for him, but I think it's again clear on that why and what do you want to be known for. Look at your target audience. Look at really who do you really love to work with. You know,
Mm.
which are your best clients at the moment that you would love to work more with, and which are the ones you don't really want to work with anymore. You know, and
Yeah.
work out what the similarities and differences are with those people. Then you can start sort of saying who you are for as well.
Yeah.
Getting really clear on your target audience is really good, and you know, not just about who you are for, but who you are not for as well. You know, do a customer's persona about people you're not for, so you can see the alarm bells before they happen, kind of thing. Because if people are constantly asking you how much it's going to cost, how much it's going to cost, you know, that kind of stuff. That's an alarm bell. You know, they're probably going to be a bad client. You know,
Yeah.
the one good thing with branding when you get it right is that no one will ask you how much it costs. You know, if your brand is that good, you will never be asked again how much something costs, because people just will understand the value you deliver to them before they even have that conversation. You know.
I love that. Yeah. I would also say, going on from that, I guess if you ask your clients or your current customers how they describe you, then sometimes that's the gap between how you think you're perceived and how you're actually perceived. That's
Yeah,
where the
yeah.
real work needs to happen. Because I've done that and I've been shocked. I'm like, wow, that's how you view us. And like, yeah. And so it's okay, let's pivot and let's play on that. Because we're getting similar responses. So I'm like,
Yeah,
okay.
it's understanding your value as well, isn't it? That you deliver to
Yeah.
people, and it's not always obvious. You may think you're delivering is the right thing, but
Yes.
when you start talking to customers like that, they'll give you a completely different perception around it. And there's real gold and real nuggets in sort of looking at your testimonials and your reviews, that kind of stuff. If you're lucky enough to have a lot of them, you can do. You can use AI to do. That's one thing AI is good at,
Yeah.
is analyzing data. So put all your testimonials into your AI chatbot, and ask it what
Good, yeah.
and ask it what are my customers saying about me, kind of thing. What are the common threads in all my reviews, and I think you'll be quite amazed at what it comes back with sometimes.
Yeah, I didn't think about that one. Put all your testimonials into that. Yeah, that's a good one. I'm gonna do that and
Yeah,
see.
it's a real top tip. This is something I've done for a few of my clients. We had one client in particular that had over 100 testimonials and reviews, and they hadn't really analysed them and that kind of stuff. So what we did was we poured those 100 testimonials into ChatGPT,
Yeah.
and asked it to analyse and come up with the five biggest, most common phrases out of all those things, which it did. We then asked it to then write a value proposition for that business based on the customer reviews, and that's such a powerful statement because it's written by your customers, not you.
Yeah.
And so that's a really good tip. If you have got hundreds of reviews sitting there and you don't know what to do with them, to chuck them, use them and find out more about your audience and what they're saying about you.
Oh, yeah, I love that. Um, well, Rob, thank you so much for joining me today and for sharing your insights
That's
so
been great. Thank you. Yeah,
openly.
yeah,
It's been a really valuable conversation, and I'm sure, I guess to sum it up, branding isn't just about how a business looks, it's about
yeah,
how it's understood and perceived. And in a world where attention is short and competition's everywhere, clarity, I feel like that's the key word.
yeah.
Clarity
Clarity is
is
the
not
biggest thing. Yeah,
optional.
yeah, yeah,
It's an
yeah,
advantage.
yeah.
So if people want to connect with you or find you, learn more about you, where is the best place to find you?
Look for me on LinkedIn is the best place. That's where I normally hang out on LinkedIn. So search for Rob Fryer. I'll be the guy in the colourful shirt. And yeah, you'll be able to find me there.
Great. And to everyone listening, take this as your sign to look at your brand properly, not just your logo, it's not just the colours, but your message, your positioning, and the experience you're creating. So
Yeah.
thank you for tuning in to Speak Your Own Business, and I'll see you in the next episode.